Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, brought to you by the Wealthy Speaker School. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson. Today we're going to talk about how to work around that wonderful phrase that we've all heard before. I'm so sorry we don't pay our speakers. Our guest today is Julie Austin. Welcome, Julie.
How are you today?
I'm doing great, and I'm so glad to have you on the line because you stumbled across this line early in your speaking business, but you decided to, work around it. And I love a good workaround. Tell us the story about that.
Well, yes, it was very early in my career, and it was for a conference, and it was local, and, I was trying to do anything and everything I could to get out there, but they said, we don't pay speakers. And, I live in LA. It's kind of expensive to live here. So I said, I can't really do that. But then what I thought about was, I have years of background in sponsorship. I was a sponsorship director for, I started a TV pilot based on sponsorship. So I got the TV pilot off the ground just from local sponsors. And so I thought, okay, what about if I get my own sponsor and it's not selling from the stage? I'm not going to get up there and do a speech on my sponsor. And that way you get a good speaker, the audience gets a good speech, the sponsor, gets exposure in front of their audience, and I get paid. And so they went for it, and it was a game company, and they had the game in the back of the room, and, we promoted them in a lot of different ways, and everyone was very happy.
Yeah, win-win-win. Beautiful.
Yeah. And so I started doing this for a lot of conferences because, especially in the beginning when I, wasn't making any money, that was a way for me to start making money as a speaker from day one.
Beautiful. I love that. Now, talk about how small business sponsorship might be different from large corporate sponsorship.
I think it's very different because although everyone would love to have Coca-Cola and Nike and IBM sponsor them for hundreds of thousands of dollars, it is probably not going to happen. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, but even if it does, it takes a very, very long time for them to make decisions.
Yeah, it's usually a longer game, right?
It's a longer game, and the line is very long.
Right.
There are a lot of people competing. So when I actually started in New York City with the TV pilot, my boss didn't tell me anything. He said, we need some sponsors, and he walked out the door.
Sink or swim, Julie.
And I went, oh, okay. He said, basically, if you want a job, then you better go get some sponsors.
Find me the money. So you learned how to sell a sponsorship really quickly that way, obviously.
Very quickly. I didn't know what I was doing. I put together, if you'd seen the proposal, it'd probably be laughable. But the proposal wasn't the big thing. It was that I actually walked into businesses and said, hey, here's what we're doing. We got some celebrities, ready for the show. We just need sponsorship to get it off the ground. And I didn't even know about big corporate sponsorship or how to do it. So it wasn't an option. I just literally walked out the door and started doing it. And we got the show made because of that. And so what I learned in doing small business sponsorship is that I could get a sponsor in a week or two. It never took me more than 2 or 3 weeks to get a small business sponsorship. And the person that makes the decision is usually the business owner or the head of marketing. They're much easier to get to.
Right. So let's just divide this conversation up into two sections. We're going to put big corporate kind of off to one side. Now, and then we'll talk about maybe a little bit more about how to seek out maybe some smaller business sponsorships. That said, though, let's say you want to identify, here in Canada, we have financial advisors. We often have some of the wealth management companies or mutual fund companies say, hey, we'd like to sponsor you and take you on a cross-country tour. If you can find an audience that marries up with somebody who wants to get in front of that audience, then it's worth a pitch, right?
That is the bottom line. That is, it doesn't really matter so much what you're speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
It is all about the audience. It's all
Right.
about who wants the ears and eyeballs that are there at that audience.
Right, right. And typically we're not dealing with like an IBM type company here, but I can see that getting, Johnson and Johnson to, take you on a cross-country wellness tour or something like that would be a very long-term something that you'd have to get in and start building the relationship, and
Right.
a big proposal would have to be done and that type of thing. But when
Right.
you're
So in the meantime, get the smaller business sponsors
hmm
and start making money and putting together your portfolio. So
right,
when I was able to eventually go to bigger sponsors, I could say, "Look what I did for these guys,"
right.
and it helped a lot in getting a bigger sponsor.
Beautiful. And I love the idea of, let's say you're wanting to get in front of real estate agents. You could approach a mortgage broker and say, hey, this local realtor audience doesn't have any budget. Do you want to pay my fee and you can be kind of my partner on this event? That's a beautiful thing. You're talking one phone call.
I am, and my first, because when I was in New York, I did it for the TV company that I was working with. But when I branched out on my own, before I ever started becoming a speaker, I was an actor, and I wanted to get sponsors for a play. And I literally, you don't even have to find them in the U.S. or even in Canada. My sponsor came from Europe.
Mm.
And it was one small to mid-size ad agency. And the thing is, you have to find out what they're looking for. So I found out that they wanted to get into the Hollywood, celebrity market. And
Mm.
that's what they wanted. They said, can you do that for us? Can you put celebrities in the audience and connect us and get PR? And I said, yes, I can. Not knowing really if I could, but I ended up getting several celebrities to be in the play. And I said, okay, this is old school. So I said, break out your Rolodex.
Yeah.
Calls. And so we had Carl Reiner sitting in the front row. Dom DeLuise was in the front row. I mean, it was anybody and everybody in that audience. I mean, it was amazing. So
That's
I did
awesome.
exactly what I said I was going to.
Yeah, you pulled a Susie Humphreys. There's a speaker out of Dallas named Susie Humphreys who her thing is, I can do that. You don't know if you can or not. She just says, I can do that. No problem at all. And then she just go off and make it happen. So I love that. Okay, so now let's like kind of transition into your first speaking engagements and walk us through what some of the sponsorship opportunities that you've taken advantage of. You probably had to make it all happen. So, who told you no, and who did you get to sponsor you? What I'd really love people to walk away from this session with is ideas of actions that they can take. Like, who can I go out to find to sponsor me when somebody says they don't have the money? So, if we give them lots of matching ideas, I think that's really cool.
So this was for it was for tweens, I guess. It's not exactly teens, it's tweens. That's like the 12-year-old
Right.
girls, right? That was the audience. And so I just thought,
What were
okay,
you going to speak to them about?
I'm an inventor, so
Okay.
I was speaking to the girls on, 15%, fewer than 15% of all patent holders in the world are women.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was about inventing for girls. And I do a
Cool.
lot of that with STEM kind of stuff, inspiring young girls to get into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, it's an invention kind of thing, so maybe I should go after a company that has an invention. And that's why I went after a game company that
Right.
they wanted to target young girls.
Beautiful. Okay, so that's one that worked. Okay, so you are an inventor, and so when you talk, well, give us a title or two of your talks, just so I want to get on the same page with you.
Oh, I'm trying to remember what the name of the speech was that I gave for them.
Well, what
Um,
would you do today if this happened? What's your
oh,
name, title of your talk
I
today?
just did just one. I did one on the invention of safety.
Okay.
So I was the keynote, and it was on safety inventions because I'm an inventor, and
Hmm.
they a lot of times they'll use someone who's injured on the job, and they said, "Well, we want something different this
Right.
time."
Okay. And did you need to find a sponsor for that one?
I did not. No, I
Okay.
mean I get paid very well right now. So
Okay, so
but I still do use sponsorship occasionally because um there are still half of the would you say half of the jobs out there are the free ones?
it's,
40%? I don't.
it's hard to say what the ratio would be because everything I would say at the local level, local association level, is often freebies. And then when you move up to the state level, you can start to get paid there a lot of the times, but not always. Sometimes at this, like a state association might require something in the sponsorship. Now, let me ask you this. If you've ever been trying to work, have you ever gone after associations in your business?
I do work with associations, and
Oh,
if they don't have enough money, so some
hmm.
of them will pay a fair amount. I will always say, "Can I make up the rest of it by having a sponsor?"
Right.
And rarely will anybody say no.
Right, sure, of course not. And so, where would you go? Walk us through your thought process on where you would go to find a sponsor.
Well, I mean, the first thing before you ever start to look for a sponsor is they want to know, in addition to that audience that they'll be in front of, it's more than that. So, I mean, it's very, very helpful that you have a big social media following or you have a big list. You have something else besides that. Now, if you want to start making good money at
Hmm.
sponsorship, I
Right?
mean, there's there are a million breakout sessions. Everybody needs breakout sessions, and almost nobody pays the
Right,
breakout
right.
speakers.
So, those breakouts could be potential for sponsorships as well.
Right. But see, when you're looking at a breakout, there's not the big, 1,000 people in an audience kind of keynote thing.
Hmm.
So you're not going to make as much money. That's why I
Hmm.
say, and when you start to go after sponsorship, have a bigger audience. So you have a bigger, I have about over 30, maybe 40,000 um, plus on my social media, on top of having a list and on top of having a blog that I keep up and all of that combined, plus I do PR. So I'm trying to get as much exposure for them as possible so that you make as much money from the sponsor.
Right. So, you're saying to them, will you sponsor me for this live event with 300 people, but I'm a social influencer, so I can also make sure
Right.
I spread your message to a lot of people that may not have eyeballs on you right now. Now, are they ever concerned that your followers are not their people?
That is a good question. Well, if you want to be successful, um, the trickiest part of sponsorship is just, and the hardest part is just getting the sponsor in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have, I do have some clients who only speak in one industry. That's it. They've got their sponsors, and that's all they do. And
Mm-hmm.
so they don't have to keep reinventing the wheel.
So what
They don't
industry
have.
is that?
One of them in particular, it's in the senior care.
Mm-hmm.
So the topics that she speaks on, no corporation is going to hire her to come in and speak on those.
Okay.
Uh,
They're very
but
specific for seniors
it's,
care. So what's the type of
yep.
company that she would get to then sponsor her? Like, 'cause she could do health insurance, she could do all kinds of things that want to get in front of senior care. You know, there's telephones that are specifically designed for seniors and plans and things like that, right?
Now you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what you have to do is do a little brainstorming. So her topic is really a niche. It's on
Mm-hmm.
downsizing for seniors.
Okay.
So like
So,
IBM's not going to hire her to come in and talk
but the
about that.
local moving company might,
Oh,
right?
she got a local moving company. She got a real estate agent, and that's it. That's
Right.
all she does. She gave me
Right.
a great, unsolicited testimonial. She said, "I make a living doing this."
Yeah,
That,
that's
and
really
that's all
good.
she wanted to do.
You know what I'm loving about this conversation, Julie, is that when one door closes, open a window.
Right.
Figure out a workaround for this idea that there is no money. And in order to do that, you just have to think about who cares about the same people I care about. So if seniors are your market, who else wants to get in front of seniors? You never know when the big bank down the street has got some sort of senior initiative going on. It wouldn't hurt to just ask the branch manager and start there as a possibilities. You know, I love seniors. I can think of a lot of things, especially when it's like downsizing. That is so specific. They're going to need a moving company. They're going to need a realtor to try to sell their house. They might need a home stager. They might need somebody to help them come in and get rid of all of their stuff and take it over to the place that's going to auction it off for them or whatever, right? There's a million services that could become involved in that for them.
Right. I think people tend to think too narrowly. It's like, okay, I'm going to get Coca-Cola and I'm going to go on a tour. you know, I do a course for speakers on sponsorship, and it is basically a street smart way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a million possibilities out there, which is what is so exciting because, I come from a background in the entertainment industry with actors who just think, okay, I'm going to Hollywood and I am going to get an agent and they are going to send me out. No, they're not. No, they're not. You are going to have to do the work and hustle and prove yourself. Then you can go to an agent. It's just like a speaker bureau. You've got to prove yourself before, why should they take a chance on you for nothing? So,
Right, right. Well, I'm just starting to think about all of the different matches that we might give people just to get the ball rolling in their mind. So I have a client named Neer who speaks on creativity, and he speaks. He's starting out as his market is going to be realtors, real estate. Not necessarily the owner brokers, but perhaps the real estate agents themselves. Well, maybe the owner brokers as well. So when we think about real estate, we're thinking who wants to get their business? And again, we're kind of back to people like mortgage brokers, anybody who might help with a move. Give me some more there of who you would start with if you were looking to get in front of real estate.
oh, not an industry I know a lot about.
Okay.
I think, you pretty much had it right there. The mortgage brokers for sure. I
Mm-hmm.
know one guy who is just always complaining about not getting business, and yeah, I kind of have have mentioned that to him about, well, why don't you sponsor a speaker and have that speaker get out and represent you?
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah, that
yeah,
could be good.
always talk to small business owners all the time about
Mhm.
why don't you try something a little different than just advertising. So the
Mhm.
thing is with advertising, if you put a commercial on TV, for example,
Mhm.
that commercial might be seen by seniors or teenagers or people who have no interest whatsoever in your business, and
Mhm.
it's kind of a waste. The great thing about sponsorship is there is no waste. So if you're a mom, I mean, you have a product for new moms, and you want to get in front of new moms, you could put that commercial on TV, you could put an ad somewhere, but you're going to be targeting people that aren't interested. What if
Mhm.
you have a room full of 100 new moms? That's a small audience, but it's extremely targeted. There's nobody in that audience that isn't interested in things for new moms.
Mhm. For sure. So it could be your local it could be your local children's stores. It could be I don't know, nursing services. What there's all kinds of things. Maybe you would get your local Toys R Us or Babies R Us to sponsor it, or I'm trying to kind of give people as much ideas as they can to be thinking about. Oh yeah, okay, I can go out and find a sponsor. So anytime you hear the word, we don't have the budget, I would say the first starting point is, especially if it's for a convention, is look at last year's convention online and look at who their sponsors were for booths. Those
Right. You
people,
don't you Yeah, you want to make sure though that you don't target their sponsors,
mhm.
which is a big
That
no-no.
would give you a lot of good ideas, though, would it not?
Right, right. For other things, but not for them. So
Okay.
that is the one thing that I hear from meeting planners is as long as you don't
Don't
go after ours.
pilfer my, as long as you don't pilfer my own. But that'll give you
but
all
but
the
that
ideas on who isn't interested in getting in front of these people. If you go to a big real estate conference, there might be technologies that are new for real estate. There might be business card printers and sign printers and just all of these things. You're like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. The list of who they are will probably give you a whole bunch of ideas. And yes, I think that's a good caveat, is to say hands off the ones that they already have.
although
What if they
I
would add
did
on? Maybe they would be a
that's
sponsor
what
and do your session.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that happened to me one time at it was for a retail conference, and they had this one sponsor. They said, "What else can we sponsor? We're doing the door hangers. We've got banners. We're doing all kinds of crazy things." They said, "What else do you have? We got money." So
That's
in
really
that
cool.
case, yeah, in that case, it worked out great, and they just wanted to sponsor anything they could.
Right, right.
So, but I did get the blessing of the meeting planner. It was I didn't go around them.
Beautiful. Well, I just sponsored the lanyards, so the things that hold your badge in place
Mhm.
at our local, the convention was in my hometown, the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers Conference. And so I sponsored the lanyards, and it'll have the name of the Wealthy Speakers School on it and the URL. And I thought, I normally probably wouldn't do this, but the school is new and I'm launching it. And I kind of wanted to contribute because I was on the committee and I could see that they had one or two sponsorships left. And I'm like, okay, I normally don't do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Normally, what I would have said to people, like when they offer you a booth instead of a fee, I'd say, well, your goal is to really be the one standing on the stage. That's how you establish the best level of expertise, right? Is for
Right.
you to be seen as the expert from the stage. So if they're offering you a booth, and so when it comes to speakers doing sponsorships themselves, what do you think about that in order to get booked into a particular association or something like that?
Oh, you mean so you are technically the sponsor?
Mm-hmm.
Um, as long as you don't, I mean, well, I don't know. That means you're paying to be a speaker,
Right,
which
exactly. But if you
which is
get up on the stage and it's good enough. So some of my clients have said, okay, well, they're going to give me a sponsorship. They're not going to give me a fee, and I'm going to get a booth and blah blah blah. And my big thing is, okay, as long as you're getting stage time. But other than that, you're right. I don't really like the idea. But sometimes it's just a trade. It's an even trade, no money. You're not actually paying to speak.
right. I mean, I have learned a long time. You still probably have to pay your expenses, although I never do anything unless they pay my expenses. If they
Hmm.
won't even do that,
Then you're
I'm
done.
not interested. No, no
Well,
matter
that,
what. I want to. Don't want to say no matter what, because you know what?
hmm.
Things may come along, and I go, wait a minute, that might be a good
Let's
opportunity.
not
But
lock it in stone then. We'll say, okay,
yeah,
that's kind of your boundary. You have a little bit of boundary around you. Okay, so if somebody called you tomorrow, when's the last time you did a sponsorship in your own business that you needed to pull out that secret weapon that you have?
I haven't had to do it in quite a while. But I did, MPI, some of them pay, some of them don't.
Right.
Uh, um, One of them that I didn't pay, so I got a sponsor for that one.
Cool. Who did you get?
That was quite Tropicana
Oh, well, that's
Hotel.
very interesting. Oh, the Tropicana Hotel.
Yeah, yeah.
When you first said it, I thought, well, that's very interesting. How do you line up orange juice, Tropicana orange juice, where
No,
my mind went?
no.
And then when you added on hotel, I went, aha, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so the Tropicana wants to get in front of meeting professionals to say, hey, come on here and we'll be able to show you some information about our venue. That's a great idea. So for those of you, and we do have we interviewed Lori Pugh Markham from MPI, and
Okay.
we'll put that session in our show notes. And if you are indeed going to go after MPI as one of your target markets, they have the reason why you would have said yes to that, Julie, is because they have all of the corporate meeting planners in one place. And so for you to say, okay, how about I get myself a sponsor? And they go, sure, you go find the Tropicana Hotel, everybody wins. It's a beautiful thing. You get paid to be in front of a whole group of people who could
Yep.
potentially hire you. That is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's genius because I honestly wouldn't even have thought to get a sponsor for MPI. I think that's great. You could do the same for
Well, my
ASAE.
speech Yeah, my speech was on how to get a good speaker when you don't have a budget. So not every meeting planner has a budget. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they would like to, but they don't all have one. So that's I was basically telling them, look, I'm trying to open your eyes to
Yeah,
different ways of working. If you don't, in the past it was just, well, we don't have a budget.
right.
That's that. It's like, well, okay, if you want to get a good speaker, so they have to get paid,
That's
you
really
know?
good. That's really good. Well, I like your style. Okay, so I have a question for you that's going to be off the track because we probably have some listeners who have thought about inventing something. And when you and I talked before, you talked to me about the stage that you were at with your invention today. Can you give us like the Reader's Digest version of your invention story?
Wow. Um,
I know,
I
I'm asking you
definitely
to
have,
make it short.
yeah, I definitely have a learning curve there. I basically started with $5 and a lump of clay. That is what I had when I started my business. And I turned that lump clay into a prototype. So a lot of people think, oh, you have to have some big, fancy, expensive prototype. No, you have to have something that people can see. And once they can see it, they can visualize it, then you're, much closer to getting it done. And so I literally had that. I had to work.
Tell everybody what your invention was.
Oh, it's called Swiggies. They're wrist water bottles.
Wrist water bottles. Okay, so people who are out jogging might use them, and who else?
Kids. I also sell in the alcohol industry. That's a long story how that started. I thought
funny.
It was just a water bottle.
But you probably serve the promotional products industry, right? Because you can put logos on them and stuff.
That is the biggest market ever. I've sold about 1 million in that market.
Oh, cool.
Around the world.
So I see on your website, swiggies.com, we'll put that in the show notes as well, that I think it's HGTV bought them, and is that maybe like a Home Depot logo? I can't really tell, but that's a really great idea when you could get into something that's customizable, hey?
Yep.
And that's so unique.
When you start out, I mean, this applies as a speaker too, you have no idea who needs what you have.
Right.
But if you can expand your thinking, because I didn't know about the promotional market.
Right.
I didn't know about, there's something called the Hash House Harriers. It's a drinking club with a running problem. That's their logo.
That's funny.
And they put beer in them and run.
Oh my goodness.
And so it is huge. They have them all over the world every day of the week. And I never would have known. Someone stopped me at the airport and said, hey, I'm going to tell you how to sell a bunch of those. And so I got into that market. I got into Burning Man and all the music festivals, and it just expanded, and at Carnival. And I kept thinking, wow, who else could use what I have?
Wow. Once the fire gets lit, it can just keep burning and burning to other markets. So how many have you sold so far?
I've sold over 1 million. I sold
plus.
most of them in the promotional products market.
Okay, so promotional products. And you shared with me, I hope you're okay. I hope I'm not talking out of school here, but the life of an inventor isn't always mansions and limousines, is it? Do you mind sharing how much of your own money you've put into this and what your next steps are going to be? Because I don't want to over glamorize it for people, because it's really not an easy go.
No, I mean, if you watch Shark Tank, you'll see the hard stories of the people, that were living in their car, they mortgaged their house, they ran up their credit cards. That really is what I did. I mean, I did all of that and worked 2 and 3 jobs, but I own 100% of it. So I never got investors. I had no venture capital.
Right.
And nobody told me what to do. So I could make them in pink or purple and polka dots. I could do whatever I wanted.
Right.
And, the thing is, there are a lot of inventors I've met who make a decent living. They go out and they do flea markets and they do trade shows and they sell online and they make a living.
And every weekend they're out slogging their wares.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So what are you going to be doing in the future for this?
The next step is I have incredible intellectual property on it. So I would just want to license the product and have someone with deep pockets who can come in and just take it over and take it to the next level, because I've taken it as far as I can take it.
Right.
And which is pretty darn far for one person with no money.
Pretty darn far, yeah. But you did put a lot of your own money into it. And
a lot.
And did you get rich from it?
I have made my money back, and I probably doubled my money.
Doubled your money. So
okay. That's not what you think of, somebody who the My Pillow guy, or
Yeah, I mean,
some of
we
the
see the Dr. Ho on the thing and we're like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, Dr. Ho's probably getting really rich. But Dr. Ho probably has a big company behind him that is pouring a lot of money into
Oh,
all
he
the
does. Yeah.
advertising and infomercials and such. And it's just not an easy game to get into. So that was my point of bringing that up with you, because I wanted people to recognize that now you've switched kind of out of that and into speaking, because this is a little bit more lucrative, wouldn't you say?
It's I mean, if I wanted to put the time into Swiggy's and do it all myself, I
Right.
could. I just think that I've taken the product as far as I can take it, and the infomercial, that kind of money, you're talking millions of dollars they put into airtime.
Yeah.
So it's
Cool.
just, I've
All right.
gone as far as I can, and I brought the intellectual property, and I would suggest that speakers do the same, is to create intellectual property. I'm always telling people it's like selling air. When
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 licensing deals with different companies out of the country, I don't manufacture it, I don't sell it, I don't do anything. I just get a check. So she goes out,
Beautiful.
she does all of that, she sells, she says, here's your 7%.
Okay, well, I like how you think, Julie Austin. Thank you so much for being on the show today. If people want to get in touch with you, where should they go?
The site is speakersponsor.com.
Speakersponsor.com. Great. And you have
And
a course, is it?
I have a course that tells you, it's about 3 or 4 hours on Kajabi, and it is everything from start to finish. It's not stuff you can read in a book. It's the
Okay.
street smart, techniques that I learned through all of these years of doing this,
Great.
and it has all the templates. It has everything you need, and not only that, I give you a free hour of coaching to make sure you know what you're doing, you're targeting the right people, and you're doing it. I want people to succeed, because I want this to be something that helps speakers make money and helps the meeting planners get good speakers they can't afford.
Beautiful. Well, street smart is kind of what I think of when I think of you. And I want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. And for those of you who are listening in, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Our little show here is just like the little engine that could. We are chugging up the mountain. We've gone past 100,000 downloads, and we could not be more thrilled. I know to some of the big podcasts, that's probably no biggie. They're doing that in a month probably, but hey, here we are, still going. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Julie. And with that, we will say, see you soon, Multi Speakers. Bye for now, everyone. Hey, thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed our show, you'll want to come and visit us at the Wealthy Speaker School, where we provide a proven roadmap for building your dream business. Go to wealthyspeakerschool.com. And for show notes for today's podcast, head on over to speakerlauncher.com and click on podcast. I'll see you soon, Wealthy Speakers.